Shirley is going to moderate any questions. If you have a question for Ajahn, you could use the raised hand under reactions, or if you don't have that, you could raise your physical hand. And when Shirley acknowledges you, she'll ask you to unmute to ask your question.
Oh, it looks like Joyce has a question. Or I think, anyway, I saw Joyce waving her hand, so I thought that was a question.
Yes, it is, Ajahn.
Okay.
May I ask a question, please?
Yes, please.
Just a couple of days ago, I and Michael, we had a breakfast and we were talking about how we tend to doze off a little bit now without age catching up. So we're just wondering if Ajahn has any advice on how to stay alert, when we kind of like dozed off halfway through listening to Dhamma. I mean, we are all in our 60s now. Thank you.
Well, I guess you all need to get enough sleep. I know, Joyce, you're kind of you're often working quite late at night. I know. Anyway, I guess we all need to get enough rest. People are going through different things bodily and so forth. So, sometimes we don't recognize how much, that in fact we need a little more rest than is our habitual for us. So that's part of it. In the midst of a Dhamma talk, well, maybe it's my soothing voice. Sometimes that's that's an issue. I think. First of all, don't make it a big problem. That is that don't judge yourself too harshly. Falling asleep is a normal thing, isn't it? And if the attention isn't focused on what's being said, it's going to wander, and that'll happen. There are the physical things, sometimes not leaning into, if you're sitting on a couch or on a soft chair, not leaning into the back. It helps maybe to keep the spine erect. More attention seems to be available then. Ajahn Sona, my first monastic teacher, used to always talk about how, if you're learning scales on a piano, you don't lean into a chair. You keep your spine erect, and there's more energy there. So it does speak to the issue of attention, certainly. Bit of cold water, maybe, having a bit of water nearby. I guess I wouldn't. I've seen so many people sleeping during Dhamma talks in Thailand. My first impression is don't make it a problem. It's just. You look out over a congregation, and for some occasions, especially say the annual gathering around Lumpur Cha's passing, or his birth rather. Some occasions there are a few thousand people, and Dhamma talks will go right through the night, and you just see people nodding off here and there and everywhere, and it's just maybe you have to be around more people who have been sleeping in Dhamma talks to feel okay about it. But yeah, my first thing is not to make it a problem. Just do your best, and try to look for something in the message which you can sort of that's of interest to me. You're looking for things of that are pertinent in some way or another. But yeah,
I was talking more on when we listen to pre-recorded Dhamma talks.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Okay. Not live Dhamma talk.
Yeah. Well, then your environment is very much at your command, then, isn't it? So you can. Why not, for instance, get up and stand? Standing is a very alert position, and you're unlikely to fall asleep, too easily when you're standing. So try that.
Thank you, Fran.
I believe that Melissa has a question. Melissa, would you Melissa, unmute yourself, please, and ask your question, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ajahn, for your Dhamma talk tonight. It really was very moving to me. And so I don't really have a question so much, but I just wanted to thank you and say that your the words that you spoke about nature and, trees and just it really resonated with me. I've been finding that that's for me been really, really important over the last many months. I love being in nature, but I find that it's kind of been a savior sometimes, on challenging days. So you put words beautifully to experiences that I've had, and it was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good. Yeah, finding ways to value things like that. I mean, it's often the case, and I found this so much in my own life that, sometimes until I read something or I hear someone express the value of something that I have enjoyed, but maybe haven't had the reasons to appreciate sufficiently, it is helpful. But there's something very, very deep, and I won't go on it again, but I mean, attention, awareness, just that kind of still knowing, which is I often think of mindfulness, real mindfulness, as this kind of knowing, which is behind or underneath experience. So the thoughts are coming and going, they're passing over, you might say. The sensations, the worries, and so forth, all of these are coming and going. But if we value the knowing, which itself cannot be an object, we can't make an object of this knowing, then that's very, very powerful an experience. It's very hard to value that because it's rather hard to put into words, isn't it? So there's something about just pure appreciation, knowing you're appreciating the stillness and the silence and the presences around you, just sitting with that. This does instruct the mind in an important way. You can bring that to your sitting practice. So I think it's very valuable. So
thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else that would have a question? Do you want to raise your hand?
This brings up one of my favorite poems, very short, so partly a favorite because I can remember it with great ease. It's just, and I might have actually trotted it out to you a few months ago, but it's by W.S. Merwin. Might be his shortest poem. Rain through the afternoon, and in the long pool a frog singing, happiness as old as water. Happiness as old as water. Now, when he was listening to that frog, something struck him, but there was, I would say that there was a silence, there was sufficient silence in his attention that he could hold that and eventually make some sense of it in language as a gift for us. Good. Yes, Bodhi.
Hi, Ajahn. I want to thank you for that talk and the story about the mangoes, the truckloads of mangoes, was such a delightful expression and reminder of taking joy in goodness and in that kind of impulse. And I'm just wondering if you can say something more about, I notice when I have generous impulses, it's very often undercut very quickly by a sense of stinginess, which I think is also kind of a maybe deep fear of not having enough or something of that sort that's kind of deeply built into probably me and probably most of this culture, that we're so driven by this message of having enough, taking care of ourselves, not needing to rely on others and other, handouts and those kinds of things. But I know that it gets in the way of for me personally when I try to manifest or practice generous impulses.
Yeah, I certainly recognize that. You know, one way of doing it is to think about it as a practice, I guess, and to sort of to get around that business of having enough, and this is I can't afford that, or I wouldn't have enough left over for myself, and that kind of thinking. Just think of very, very modest things, a handful of seeds to the birds or something, but do it a lot, do it often, do it daily, say. That came to mind because I get to do. We buy sunflower seeds in these big, fertilizer bags full. I don't know. They must be about 30-pound bags or something. I don't know how many bags we've gone through over the winter. Anyway, so maybe doing something often, really regularly, and then the heart it flows. In other words, you want what you're describing as in a way is putting a rock in the middle of a stream, and it creates turbulence, and not all the water gets through or whatever. So you want something that flows, and so do something a lot, do something regularly. Some small thing that, and you don't have to worry about other people noticing, or will they think this is silly, or will they expect it next time or something. Maybe a good place to start is with birds or dogs or something like that, but just enjoy the flow of that. And maybe what happens with practice, because it is practice and therefore it's habitual, is the heart and mind become kind of routinized to the feeling of the flow. It becomes natural, and then sometimes an idea comes to mind. So and so could really use this, and I haven't used that thing for at least a year or more, and I think that they would love this thing. I'm just gonna, and then you don't think about how much it originally cost you or whatever else might come to mind, but that might arise later as a kind of spontaneous thing in its own right. But yeah, find some small thing that gives you pleasure. Don't make a problem out of it. In other words, try to find a practice in it, which begins to be. I'm sure I've repeated this before from Moshe Feldenkrais. This thing about physical activity. He had these exercises, and he said, "Yeah, we make the impossible possible." What was impossible becomes possible. What was possible becomes easy, and what was easy becomes elegant. So you find something which is actually quite easy, and then it becomes elegant, and something which is a little more difficult becomes actually quite becomes not maybe elegant right away, but easy, and eventually something which wouldn't maybe have occurred to the mind, which does close up and create the turbulence, will maybe arise spontaneously to the mind. Also, I would say, knowing many of you on this call and knowing my good friend Bodhi here, you can also reflect on your own life and the things that you have given to others, and remind yourself of that as often as you can, because that also, it allows you to steep in something which is true, is real, and is good. And don't give in to, don't allow yourself to think of yourself as, well, actually I'm kind of a stingy guy who sometimes gives something, because it ain't true. Yeah, it just ain't true.
Thank you.
Ajahn, Victor from Thailand has a question, and I'm not sure that he can unmute himself. Yes, Victor Indirakis.
Oh, actually,
there he is.
It was just a message for the organizer, I guess, that if there was something that we can contribute to the monastery at this time, since I know there's COVID and probably not much people can go and visit the monastery. So I was wondering if there's anything that's needed at the monastery and we can contribute?
Oh, thanks, Victor. Well, we just received a lot of food, and I don't expect you to be sending food, Victor. I think that there is on the Tisarana. I should know this. I'm not that familiar with our website, to be honest, but I think there is on our website somewhere maybe a list of things that are needed. Sometimes there's a tool or something like that. I can't say for sure, but I think that there may be something like that. A person could try that. So that would be maybe the first thing I'd suggest you doing. I can't think right now of the normal things, toothpaste and towels and so forth. I think we're in good shape with things like that. Thank you. So I would direct you in that way, I think, for now.
If I might interject, in the email that was sent to you, there is a link directly to the Tisarana Monastery where you could send Dina, and it has that website would give you a list of what is needed on there. So that would make it easier for the Ajahn to just go onto the website and find out. You can send Dina in. The monastery administration is well set up for donations, international donations as well. So yeah, the administration on the website can help you with that, or anyone who wish to offer Dina for this evening's talk, or to the monastery on behalf on acknowledging the teachings of Ajahn Pavaro.
Thanks for asking, Victor.
Ajahn, there's a question on the chat asking, how does one get rid of jealousy?
Jealousy. So jealousy, what is it? We see someone accomplishing something that we can't accomplish or we don't think we can. And it reminds us. It reminds us of our sense of inadequacy, maybe, and it makes us perhaps a little angry, irritated with them, jealous of them. What else is going on? I'm thinking back to Bodhi's question, because all of these hindrances, broadly speaking, in Buddhism, they are obstructions. That's the way they're described. Or has enjoys themselves. That it in some way or another is a product of their own merit. So we're first of all, we're injuring ourselves. It's the same with so many things in life. We're angry with someone and we say something we later regret, and always the first person that we injure is ourselves. And of course, if it's a direct conversation, we used harsh words that are regrettable and unkind. Of course, usually at least, the other person receiving it has felt their prick and has been injured in some way. But first of all, even before we said something, we're holding some kind of attitude which is difficult. It's not healthy. For instance, any number of people who understand the energies of the body and the nature of the immune system and so forth could tell us that it's a form of sickness. Jealousy is a kind of sickness, and I suppose if we were masters of jealousy, we would actually make ourselves ill. I'm sure that this has been borne out in people's experience before. So it's good first to recognize. We begin with that kind of labeling thing. There's jealousy, because it's just uncomfortable. But we have to give it a word to kind of give it a sense of terrain, a territory. It's rough terrain, but we have to give it. What was that? That was so uncomfortable. That was jealousy. Gee, that's unpleasant. I didn't say anything. No one, I don't think, knew, unless they're mind readers. But I suffered. I just suffered. So we bring it into attention. We bring it into our attention. And as Lumpur Sumedho would say, and by doing so, we acknowledge it. Jealousy is one of those things that we're ashamed of quite often. You know, as a good Buddhist practitioners, I mean, who wants to admit that they're jealous of people? You know, someone has a really good meditation, and you're thinking to yourself, yeah. You just think it was a good meditation, or why can't my meditations? Why am I never smiling at the end of a meditation anyway? And they're always so darn happy, or whatever. I mean, it's very niggly, and it can be, you know, we can say quite ugly, and it gives the face a certain sort of scowl, or at least a kind of coloration to the heart. I'm sure the energy body would be some kind of foul color when we're expressing jealousy. But we are injuring ourselves, yeah. And it's not something that we maybe want to admit to ourselves. We might be more comfortable admitting that we sometimes get angry, or that we're irritated, yeah, or sometimes we lose interest in saying. I mean, so all kinds of obstructions and hindrances that we might be more okay with admitting to in polite company. Jealousy, maybe not so much, because it's something about it is kind of disagreeable. It's kind of more ugly. It seems to be a stain on the character somehow. So first of all, you need to admit it to yourself. Don't worry about trying to understand it or anything. You're just admitting, interesting. Take an interest in it. That was jealousy. Yeah, I wasn't being irritated. Yeah, that wasn't me being irritable there. I wasn't being impatient or something. That was jealousy. It's like this. Yeah, what is it? Where does it reside? So taking it on as a practitioner is basically not different than taking on anything. But it just has its own coloration, its own tone, its own vibrational frequency, or whatever you want to call it. It has its own character. So take an interest in it, especially if it's something you feel, you know, every couple of days, or around this particular person, or those types of people, or, you know, anybody who's good at, you know, math, or, you know, something like that. Every time I see another mathematician, it just bugs me, and I'm jealous all the, you know, I hate those mathematicians. Physicists, I don't mind so much, because they're sloppy mathematicians, but mathematicians, hate them. Yeah. So just stop. That's jealousy. Yeah. What is it like? What is its temperature, its color, whatever? Begin to be interested in it. Why? Well, why not? You know it's an impediment because you felt it. You know it's an obstacle because you felt it. You were quite happy or content doing something, and all of a sudden things just stopped, and you felt this kind of blackening, this dark green kind of, you know, this kind of color come over you, and it just soured the entire day for those few minutes. Or maybe you steeped yourself in it even for more time. And so it's very problematic. So just stop and recognize it, give it a name if that helps, and then just sit with it. Where does it reside in the body? You know, and whatever works. What color is it? What tone is it? What temperature is it? How does it feel? What does it do? Yeah, it's surprising how much information is available if we actually stop and pay attention. If we don't flee for something from something, or if we don't reject it in some sort of way. We don't deny the fact that, you know, it wasn't me being jealous. I was just mad because they always do stupid things, and I was irritable. That wasn't me being jealous. No. So spend some time, find where it resides, give it some language if it's helpful. Because if jealousy comes up a fair bit, you want to get to understand it, don't you? You want to get to know it, because it is an impediment. It'll stop your happiness, your enjoyment of a day, of a moment, of a conversation, of certain kinds of people. And then the answer to how to deal with it will come. It'll come quite naturally. But it's interesting. How you deal with anything is basically getting to know it. And then our own intelligence, our own genius, the natural wisdom that arises in the heart when something is known will simply take over, and you'll know what to do. Remember from time to time to acknowledge the value of someone or something or some form of accomplishment, maybe. Or, maybe in line with what I mentioned to Bodhi just now, find small things, little accomplishments that others, or maybe begin with children, because it's hard to be, if you're a perfectly grown adult and the holder of one or two perfectly decent university degrees or whatever it is that you've done in your life, it's pretty hard to be jealous of a child, isn't it? So begin small. Take note of children just learning how to walk, or watch one walking down the street and just notice how little delight just springs to their attention because they see something, or they notice a leaf fluttering or something. Ooh, look at that. Or, ooh, a dog, look at a dog. Just find pleasure in the happiness of others, maybe taking it small, finding some small thing you can enjoy. But I think basically your own innate wisdom will show you the way through this. But first of all, you have to get to know it. And jealousy, I think, is one of those things that we don't like to admit, even to ourselves, quite often. And that's part of its power over us, really. It doesn't get to be known because we won't permit ourselves to attend to it. We won't undergo the difficulty of sitting with it because it's uncomfortable. As soon as mindfulness, the knowing of mindfulness, the consciousness of what is, once we are aware of that, though, what it is can no longer remain as it was. It becomes something which is known, not lived in. We're not mucking about in it anymore. It's something that we're observing, and that's a very different phenomenon. Since Shirley, her face is on my screen right now. I'm reminded of Anagarika Dhammadina, and one of the quotations I always remember from Anagarika is, "Nothing can withstand being reduced to a verb." So, jealousy, there's jealousy. I'm jealous. Yeah. As soon as you really know that, when mindfulness is really present, it's a different thing. You've just transformed the experience. Now, if you do that often enough, make a habit of it, it becomes less and less of a problem, becomes less and less disagreeable, becomes more and more known. That's the way we transform our lives.
Ajahn, Michael and Sito, I think, have a question for you. So would you mind unmuting yourselves and asking your question, please?
Good morning, Ajahn. Sorry, Jan, for taking your time, Ajahn. I know it's a bit late.
Yeah, no, I'm quite happy. People go to all this trouble, then I'm quite happy to stick around. Plus, I've been relieved from coming to the morning puja tomorrow morning, so I can enjoy my kuti for a little longer. Yeah.
Thank you, Ajahn. Jan, thank you so much for your sharing today about nature. That I have these questions that I want to ask Ajahn. You see, a few days ago, I was informed by my friend who had passed away. My friend had passed away, and we have this group of friends that are helping the late brother to clear some of the things in his house. You see, so one of my friends asked me to in charge of the plants. And I went to his house. I saw that there is a lot of plants that are not in good conditions. but there is two plants which have been grown quite a fair big. Like a tree is quite big, and is over what they call over the fence of the wall. So the trees actually is very big, and the roots are all actually going down to the earth. So just now I was actually contemplating. My friend was asking me to ask people to come and help to clear the trees and all this, those plants that are around the house, because the house actually is in a mess with all the plants, you see. So just now when I heard Ajahn Pavaro was talking about natures, about trees, actually I felt for trees. Actually, when I started to go to plant trees, I was also I have the kind of feelings for the nature, especially when trees is concerned. So when I was given this task, I felt very difficult, and during one of my days when I was sitting,
yeah,
this came to me, says that the plants. I was thinking of these two trees, whether to chop it off and to clear it off, you see. So I felt for the plants also. So when Ajahn was talking about the nature, that's why I say, oh, this is the opportunity for me to ask Ajahn whether to consider doing it, or shall I wait for his son to come back from Australia, because now it's a period where there is no traveling. Shall I leave the things, the plants and all these things until the son comes back to make a decision for it? Yeah. Thank you, Ajahn.
So you don't want to destroy any of the trees or whatever in case, just because you feel for them, but also, I mean, it makes sense, I suppose, to wait. A few months might not make too much difference for the growth of the plants. Although in Asia, plants can grow a lot in a few months. So maybe that's a kind of a win-win for you. You can enjoy the plants a little longer and not commit yourself to damaging them or destroying them. But of course, you know how it is as a householder. It seems like this tree might be damaging a wall or something, or is it next to a house?
It's actually, it started from, they planted the plants on the pots, you see, the vase, the pot. But now, and then I think the tree over the roots all start growing down, branching out into the earth, and it's grown quite big, you see. So as you look at it, it's quite messy at the garden there, you see. So, but at the look at it, I felt for the plant, you see. So I don't know whether I was thinking that I should wait for a while, to just check with the son whether, because I think the son was telling me that it takes a while for him to come back to Malaysia, because now it's not the time to travel, you see.
Well, if you do decide to cut that big plant down a bit, you could maybe just express your interest in its welfare, and remembering that with plants, they're very adaptable. So they can grow from being cut down considerably. So it isn't like taking off somebody's arm or something. In other words, because that's just their nature. Their nature is different from us in that sense. So you could either just speak to it and wish it well, and hope that whatever pruning you do will actually lead to its further kind of vibrancy or whatever, or wait for the son and let him decide. I don't think it's too troublesome either way. Whatever in your good judgment, you feel is best.